Act, which amended and supplemented Chapter 231 of Public Laws of the State of New Jersey. 1975, notice of this meeting was given by adopting the English state location, time, and date, sending copies of the home news, posting the Borough Hall, and filing a copy of the Borough Clerk within 7 days of the beginning of the organization meeting in this body. Now I ask you to rise for the new occasion by Council President Muldoon, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's now September 2nd, and as our students, faculty, and staff return to Metuchen Public Schools, as well as the private schools in our area, on behalf of the Mayor and the Council, I want to wish everyone a successful and productive school year. And for the Council, let's consider the matters at hand tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Katie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilman Wallace.
Here.
Councilwoman Rasmussen.
Here.
Councilwoman Insero.
Here.
Councilman Grazel.
Here.
Councilman Camerano.
Here.
Council President Muldoon.
Here. I move that we open the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any items for the agenda session?
Sorry, I
Counsel.
do. Just two quick ones. Earlier today, I sent everybody copies of kind of some historical backgrounds on the ordinance I talked about last meeting regarding the appropriate authority. I'd ask everybody to take a look at it, so at some point in the future, we can have a fruitful discussion as to whether or not we want to take any action on it, and just see where we want to go with it. It's pretty detailed information. It spells out a lot of the duties and the responsibilities, and I think if you look at it, you'll see that it's a pretty significant issue that we probably should take a look at. The other issue, I'll wait until we discuss it.
Pardon me, wait till what?
Until it comes up. It's
Okay.
next on the agenda.
Councilman?
Yes, I'd like to ask the mayor and council to authorize the Cable TV Technology Advisory Committee to look at and evaluate the contract we have with our webmaster. Now, the contract is not up until February, but as you all know, we have the benefit of a panel of people who are expert in technology and websites, and I'd like to ask them to basically look at the contract, to think about the services that are rendered, where maybe some improvements or economies can be made, and report to the mayor and council by the end of the year. Very similar to the other two assignments they had. One was the social media policy, and the other was the revision of the contract for the cable franchise. So if I can get at an appropriate time, if I can get that consensus, I'd like to deliver that charge to the committee.
If they take into account that I think we're rated 44 out of all of the towns, and last time they recommended that we hire another person or have somebody here who doesn't have training do it, I think I'm really not in favor of it, but I understand where they're coming from. But I think when you're rated 44 out of 500, over 500 towns that have a thing, I'd rather see suggestions, if there are suggestions for improving, where we can improve. The contract itself is a negotiable item by the administrator, and I would not want to give them the authority to go delving into negotiating or coming up with a new contract.
I think, that last review you referred to occurred before I was on the council, but as I understand and appreciate, I think the Cable TV Technology Commission recognizes the resource issue that the borough has. I think that rather than engaging in negotiations or getting involved in specific provisions of contracts, I think they'd kind of look at the services that are rendered. I believe that there is a provision in that contract, I don't know whether it's next year or this year, for a facelift of the website. So I think they would weigh in on technology issues And again, obviously, whatever they think or whatever they believe is subject to approval by the mayor, council, and administrator.
So it would be recommendations, is what
Yes.
is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may, I mean, I just went through this with my business where we brought somebody in and we've had a site that's pretty effective for some time, and with technology changing the way it is so quickly, I think it's always good to do that. We did it and we found a couple of things. Number one, it was actually, we saved money. Number two, glaring security glitches in our system that we weren't aware of. And I'm not saying we have those, but it does sometimes help to revisit the technology issue because it does change so rapidly. And I think it's actually a good idea, and we should probably consider doing it on an ongoing basis into the future, so we're constantly on it.
I would be in favor of that. I don't think our website has been refreshed in quite some time, and there are probably a lot of things that are out of date and functionality that could be improved. So certainly not for the committee to get involved in negotiations, but there are certainly probably examples from other towns that they could look at and other best practices that they could highlight for us that we might want to consider.
Mayor, recognizing the caveats and reservations you expressed, assuming that the committee understands and appreciates that, would you be willing to?
Well, I just don't want them going out there sequestering proposals from people.
No, they're not gonna do that.
Which happened in the past.
No, that's not going to happen.
And, Council President, when did he upgrade it?
I guess it'll be 3 years.
3 years, right?
Next
It's like
year.
two plus, right?
Right, because it
Okay.
was my first,
Because you were very, very involved in that
and I was,
upgrade,
right, I think it was my first year, so,
along with me and Bill.
right, so
I guess that points to, I mean, 3 years in the world of technology is a lifetime.
right, so I mean, I obviously think to get some recommendations would be good, and maybe the, Councilman, the focus may not be best to drill that into the existing contract, but maybe to give recommendations on enhanced or new functionality,
Yeah,
right? Because,
I think that's a better way of putting it.
right? I think their expertise might be
Yeah.
more in that area where, hey, you can now do this and that on a website compared to,
Under no circumstances would the commission go out and solicit.
so no
No,
RFPs,
vendors, no,
okay.
no.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess the flavor of the council is that you, with those caveats, that you follow that through.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
I move that we close the agenda session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item on our agenda is a discussion of a generator for the library. Now, I know that in the past, Mr. Mishak had dropped off a article about generators for libraries. I had turned it over to our OEM director, and I'm going to let him speak, and then I'll talk about what our OEM director, who had to go to another meeting, could not be here tonight. Mr. Majak, if you want to address the council, please.
Yes, thank you for having me. Joseph Mitchak, Amboy Avenue, Metuchen. Here we are again coming up to October, and the last two major hurricanes happened in October, and of course the freak snowstorm, October 29th, 2012. And what piqued my interest were two things. This article, which I think I copied everybody on, next time libraries could be our shelters from the storm, and I saw the old generator out in the back there sort of wallowing away and nothing being done with it. So with this blackout, and here's more on box suggestions, let's build more branch libraries. If I could read from this a little bit. The thoughts came to mind while talking with Eric Kleinenberg, a sociologist from New York University who wrote a book about the 1995 heat wave in Chicago, which killed hundreds. Mr. Killenberg discovered that while many predominantly poor neighborhoods fared badly, others also poor didn't. The difference: less ravaged neighborhoods with more densely populated with vibrant commercial strips, social networks, community gardens, and well-tended sidewalks. We don't have that problem here in Metuchen, and we don't have a flooding problem per se as New York City and Rockaway had with the bay right next door, or the towns down at the shore. But People need cool places to go to, is how Mr. Kleinenberg put it to me. He meant oases that weren't only air-conditioned or breezy. He meant destinations that were also attractive and familiar. Official city-run cooling stations in the center for the elderly, police stations, and hospitals tend to be the last places people want to hang out. So they don't. A couple of lessons. Places that serve us well every day serve us best when disaster strikes. Health and safety go hand in hand with lively urban spaces. Invested in one, and you aid the other. Also, disasters can be opportunities. To some extent, churches, libraries, schools, and malls already serve as emergency centers, albeit not all churches responded or were equipped to help after Sandy. And as this novelist Sadie Smith lamented last year in the New York Review of Books, apropos the closing of neighborhood libraries in London, libraries are the only thing left on the high street that doesn't want either your soul or your money. Even schools are not quite like branch libraries. The branches have become our de facto community center, serving the widest range of citizens. Indispensable in countless, especially poorer, more vulnerable neighborhoods. They're much threatened by budget cuts, but never more in demand by toddlers and teenagers, working parents, the elderly, and the unemployed, new immigrants, and traditional readers. With this in mind, they could be designed in the future with electrical systems out of harm's way and set up with backup generators and solar panels, even kitchen and wireless mesh networks. So, what do we have at the library? We have a place that's familiar to everybody. You have a children's room. You have the meeting room where cots could be set up. You have many, many books that people can read and keep their mind occupied rather than worry about the storm and what's happening outside. But the library is not equipped for either solar panel or generators to keep people warm in the wintertime and cool in the summer. So I made everybody a copy of this article for you to consider, and I think if you're going to purchase a generator, the generator should be placed at the library. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
First, Mr. Mishek, in the beginning, our OEM director was directed to and advised that there was grant money available, and then that grant money was withdrawn by the governor's office so that areas like Hoboken could get additional money. We were informed then afterwards that we could apply for some money for generators, that they would qualify, but for only certain areas. In a priority, we have designated, talking with the council president, Borough Hall is one area, the DPW is another, because we have to respond to the things that are out there. The firehouse, which uses emergency generators right now to power the firehouse during an emergency, and the Senior Citizens Center, which is really, although it isn't a designated shelter right now, it could be because we have some of the cots and things stored there. Last time during Sandy, the high school became a shelter in that it was open to the public for heat, for plugging in, charging your cell phones, your computers, and even just socializing with neighbors and getting updates of what was happening, where we were about to be and where we were going. Honestly, it's a matter of money. I mean, we don't have money to do all of these. In fact, the grant money that was cut back may just about do the Department of Public Works, which is one of the groups responding to all of the emergencies, and Borough Hall. Last time during Sandy, Borough Hall, basically the OEM office, it was like we were minors, and Council President could verify this. There were like 2 or 3 lights working in there. And we would meet at least once, if not twice a day, to go over where we are, what's coming down, what do we need, and how do we react to this. The firehouse was fortunate that they had portable emergency generators, all right? So they were able to function with that. But unless we were able to get significant monies available to us, I don't see it as a high priority to do the library when we know in the past that we have used the Senior Citizen Center, we've used the high school, We need to have our DPW people out there working, and we need to have our firefighters, and we need to have the OEM office and our police.
I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just saying if you're going to buy an extra generator, rather than put it at the senior center, I think it would do well serve the public if it was placed at the library.
Your Honor?
I'm not disputing the OEM office, I'm not disputing the fire department or the police department.
If I may?
Yes.
We could have saved a lot of time if he came to talk to me as a liaison to the library and as a board member. We spent a great deal of time talking about this issue. The problems in the past at the library, at least in one storm, and I'm not quite sure if it was two, the power was on at the library. The staff wasn't there. The library-
You were lucky that the power stayed on.
We were lucky. The staff, there was not a willingness on the part of the staff, the director and the library board when asked to bring the staff in to staff it. And that's the reality of it. Since that time, we were moving in a direction, and very recently, the library director attended a seminar on this very issue, and at the last meeting discussed meeting with the OEM coordinator to talk about the issue. It's not a generator issue necessarily, it's an issue of making sure if indeed the building is functional, it could be open for heat, for cool, for charging electronic devices, which can be people's only way of communicating. You could provide some beverages. We defer to our OEM director who has training in what's most suitable for a shelter. And the library is not his top priority. I mean, I think that's very clear. And I read the article the day it ran in the paper. I sent it to him. He had already seen it. We discussed it. You know, we have to defer to him. He has the training. He knows the criteria. If indeed we are fortunate enough to get another generator or the funds for the generator, I don't believe the library is top on the list based on the conversations I've had. We've had a lot of talk about how we can utilize the library for future incidents. Assuming we have power, I think it will be open for shelter or for recharging or for cooling or heating based on the discussions we've had at the library meetings. So we have spent a lot of time discussing this issue. It is a change from the past, and I think it's a change for the best. I mean, there are some times where one time we had power, but we didn't have internet. It doesn't mean the building can't be open for residents to come to. Maybe you can't check out a book, but you got someplace warm or someplace cool.
Absolutely. And I think families with children would do better there than at the senior center.
Yeah, I mean, and candidly, I mean, we always prepare for this, but despite most of the storms we've had in recent history, we've had very little need for ongoing shelter. What we did do during Sandy, as you mentioned, was opened up the schools. And again, it was for people to come get warm, for charging devices.
I know the schools had power all that time.
The high school had power almost all the time. And ironically, we had some churches volunteer. The Assembly of God on the end of church at the end of Rose, everybody around had no power except for them. And he volunteered his church. And they were cooking and feeding people.
It's great that we have all these churches in town that could do that. I'm looking at something that would be very familiar to many, many people, and just is giving them a lot of comfort.
I guess what I'm telling you is
Consider it.
I mean, it's something we're maybe not with the generator, but it is something we are moving very much into planning, and we're preparing for that case, just not with the generator at this point.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have an update on the Mudgick Mad mural project. Mrs. Listel, would you please come forth? I can't wait to see my little tile going up.
Everyone is.
Thank you.
Linda Listella, Amboy Avenue. I'm delighted to be able to be here with you to update you. It's always a joy in the midst of a project for people to be interested enough to hear how it's going. Just very quickly, as part of my summer, we were in Vancouver, and Vancouver is a city that has lots and lots of public art. I pulled out a patch from a book that I picked up there, and it speaks really directly to what we're doing, and most especially the highlighted paragraph that I'll read, that sentence or two, that artists who work with the community consider the process and development and execution of the piece by those who will be its eventual audience as a key aspect of public art. In community art projects, diverse individuals are brought together in a way that educates and shifts perspectives about art, life, and culture. I just want us to have a sense that we're there with the best of them. We're there with the cities of the world that are working to create this sense of character for itself. So, related to our mural, I've given you the drawing so I can keep referring to that. All of the numbered sections that were worked on throughout the month of March have been dried, transported back to the studio, thanks to DPW, first fired, individually wrapped and boxed. And they're sitting in about maybe a dozen milk crates in my kiln area. About 150 people had hands in clay from that first session, that first series of sessions. Then those large edging rectangulars, you know, the section that's around the edge, were impressed with botanicals in June during Junebug. Then they too are all dried, fired, wrapped, and boxed, with the exception of those that were accidentally damaged. We do not believe it was anything malicious. It was just an accident. Nancy Goldberg sheepishly told me some of the sports teams go up to put away equipment. So, you know, if it was dark and, you know, the guys were fumbling around, you know, they kind of knocked into the edges. And I didn't have them really barricaded the way I did the first one. So I've got a little bit of work to do with that. Now, the center section, which is, you know, just that big open area in the center of the mural, that is now completely sculpted, and it speaks to all of those activities that we share as a community, from the parade to the old car night to the art in the garden tour to Junebug, all of the summer activities that we share as a community. They're sculpted and they're drying. They're not yet first fired. All told, the mural has used 600 pounds of clay. It's required for this first set of firings about a dozen that went up to 2,000 degrees, and included approximately 200 people in its creation. And I have photographs of every person who helped create the mural to date, and I'm hoping we can do something with those. METV also took video footage of the process in hopes of creating a documentary of the project, you know, in its entirety. I've sent all my technical information to Mr. Borth and Nancy Goldberg early in July, in hopes of connecting with the DPW about the structural preparation of the building itself. And I know that's ongoing. Now what needs to be done still? That's what's finished. I need to repair the broken pieces. The sections in the center that I have sculpted, they need to be bisqued or first fired. And then the entire mural laid out, basically in my driveway, and then glazed, which I will invite anyone who wishes to assist with that. Then every piece will be high fired to that temperature, which requires usually a 10-hour ascent and then a slow descent to normal temperature, which is about 36 hours. And then they'll be individually wrapped and boxed for transport to the tennis courts and then laid out there. Now, when I gave this presentation at the Arts Council, you know, they did not have a sense of, you know, immersion and, insistence on completion. They said, as it gets done. I know we had talked about doing it like mid-October, with the damage that was accidentally done. I'm seeing it now more late October, early November. And I truly don't know where the building is, in terms of, is the roof good? Is the section around the top, does that need to be replaced? So, those answers I don't have, but, this is what I can tell you with exactitude. So, any questions?
Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
The actual hanging of each piece,
Yes.
is that you're anticipating that DPW will do that?
Yes, and I've spoken, casually with those guys, and they feel real comfortable with it. They seem to know, they immediately talked about, putting up the mesh and, all the things that, would need to be done. So they already seem to have, at least one person, seemed to have a real knowledge of, what it was. And then I gave them connections, places where they could go to, further get information. Because before I started this, I checked out places in Philadelphia. I talked to people on Long Island who had just recently done big projects like this. So there are people, who can be real specific and helpful.
So are you awaiting some sort of reply from either Nancy Goldberg or?
Well, I
DPW
would
or-
just like, to kind of know, did they check it, are they going to have to repair the roof, and, when are they going to do that? And,
Okay.
there's a top section that is like, what do you call it, the shaker shingle, and that doesn't look too good. So that, to me, it's either got to be painted or replaced or something. So that, so I have enough myself, to keep me going before I really need to approach that. But, yeah,
Right.
I sent an email again yesterday
Okay.
about that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I move that we accept the council meeting minutes from January 7th and 23rd.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now going to open it to the public for any questions or comments.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Chris Crane, 46 Ross Avenue. I'm speaking with regards to the application that I've made to the council for my zoning application that I've made. The mayor, the members of the council, Mr. Murphy, Mr. Renaud, Mr. Consenza, Mr. Constantine, Ms. Harris, Mr. Borth, all of you have put a lot of careful consideration into my request. All my neighbors on Forest and Allen Street have put a lot of careful consideration into my request, and for that I'm grateful. The one word that I have to encapsulate from this entire process has been uncertainty. So with that said, I am formally withdrawing my application for a zoning change. And I thank you for your diligence and your courtesy.
Thank you, Mr. Crane.
Just for, if I may, Mayor.
Yes.
From a procedure standpoint, it remains on the agenda as 7A. If there's no motion to approve,
It dies.
It dies, and it would die at that point.
Okay.
So there wouldn't be a motion to approve, or you don't need to move to approve it, second, and then have a vote.
So it would
a
just
formal
be,
vote.
if there is no
If
motion.
there's no motion,
There's no motion, then it.
to
it
finally
dies.
adopt, yes.
Dies on the vine. Okay?
Okay. The other ordinance that's on the agenda for a public hearing,
So sorry, it's still open to the public. Is there any other public
oh,
that would have a question or
Sorry.
comment? Hearing none, I'm going to close that section of the meeting.
sorry about that.
Council President?
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is the public hearing. The first one has been sort of dealt with. We know it's been withdrawn. 7B, ordinance amending the property maintenance.
Actually, just, I mean, for the record, I mean, we would go to 7A, and then we'd ask for a motion to approve it, and if there is none,
Oh, so
then
we're
it
gonna-
dies. I mean,
Okay, going back to 7A, is there a motion?
I move,
No, no.
oh,
Is there?
oh, okay, I
Is
got
there
you,
a
all right, all right. I thought
Point
you
of
said-
order, so doesn't it have to, don't you have to open it and then adjourn to the following meeting?
No, we've already, this is the second reading, and it's been published for tonight, for the public
I
hearing.
understand that, but the intention is to have the hearing at the next meeting.
No. The intention is that it is dead.
We're still on 2014-3, Bill.
Correct.
Yeah, Bill?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
My mistake, Bill, sorry.
I apologize for my...
So, hearing no motion on ordinance 2014-3, the motion is...
Void.
Is void.
It fails.
Okay, now let's open a discussion of 2014-13. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that there was a delay in the publication of the public hearing for tonight, so the public hearing will not take place tonight. I think at the next council meeting,
September 15th.
September 15th.
My concern is, I understand that the legislature has passed a new maintenance code with some stronger teeth in it, and that may be a benefit to us, rather than adopting this ordinance and then coming back saying, oh, there's something better for us that the Assembly and the Senate has adopted and the governor has signed. I'd like our attorney to look at that information, and then if we have to reintroduce, we will reintroduce. But I think that there, as advised by our borough administrator, that there is
Correct.
there's something that just passed recently. that
August
could-
15th, yes.
August
Yeah.
15th, that could be beneficial to us. And rather than adopting this without that information, then I would like to see if our attorney would advise us and say, even if we had to reintroduce at our next meeting with the changes. Is everybody on board with that?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the legislation is it deals with banks and other financial institutions. But if there's anything in that, I'd rather be careful. and
I think,
take a look at
Councilman,
it.
one of the problems that we have with the banks and financial institutions is to give us who is actually the owner, and our zoning officer has issues many times. In fact, I know there's a property around the street, around the corner from me, and it does have a bank number to call for maintenance, and I know Chris Cosenza has brought them into the municipal court about it, but you can't find out who owns it or what status it
I
is.
think that's what the legislation addressed, correct?
Yeah, yes, and just so you know, I mean, Bill had forwarded to me the legislation and had requested whether I thought that it should be included in this ordinance. And one of the things I was going to say is, I may be making a recommendation that, and I still have to go through it in more detail, but we may do one of two things. We may leave the property maintenance ordinance as is and move forward with that, and then create a new chapter relating to abandoned and vacant properties, because what the new legislation does address is, I mean, what Councilman Camerano had just mentioned, it requires when a creditor, or when a lending institution files a foreclosure complaint in the municipality, to notice Katie, the municipal clerk, that the foreclosure complaint, and then it also requires, I mean, other things, and holds them responsible for the property maintenance issues as well of vacant properties. And that you have an avenue of recourse against the lending institutions
So
as well.
With those things, will we have to amend our ordinance in order to take advantage of that, or?
Yes, because the way it provides, the legislation provides a municipality may,
May, oh, it's
I mean,
permissive.
yes,
Okay.
and may pass an ordinance, may make, repeal.
So my feeling is let Dennis evaluate it, and if we could do it all at one time, I think we're better.
No, I'm all in favor of it. My only concern is, I think some of the issues we were trying to address were not necessarily with properties that were owned by financial institutions. It may have been, and maybe I'm wrong about that. I thought we were trying to address broader issues. And I want to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
And it may make sense, and this is something because I want to go through the entire code, it may make sense just to create a separate chapter relating to the new legislation.
But
And that's something I'll
I just want to
bring
make sure
to
we're
you.
not losing sight of the original intent.
No,
of the
I agree,
ordinance.
but I know that from talking with Chris, there's a number of homes where constantly, because of it being owned or in foreclosure, the bank doesn't do
Yeah,
the
no,
maintenance on it, and he's back in court all the time.
That's why you saw the legislation. It's a
Yeah.
statewide problem. But, okay, as long as we're not losing sight of the original goals we were setting on that.
All right, so I have a question then. So next week, we're going to not look at this ordinance, correct? That's if we want to
No,
review it.
this
and-
is listed, this will be, and it's my understanding, this is listed for a second reading and a public hearing on September 15th. I'm going to have a report for you to do one of two things. Either we're going to amend this to include the new legislation, or to leave this as is and possibly adopt another section of the code relating to that legislation.
Okay, so my other question is, if we don't vote on this right away and we develop a new one, how will that affect the particular instance where we want to try to remediate the problem on Crystal Street? Will that delay that?
The proposed legislation, this does not, I mean, although that was raised as an issue, amending this ordinance is not going to affect current court proceedings
Okay,
where a violation was issued.
Okay.
You can't, I mean, retroactively change.
okay.
Excuse me. So now am I publishing this for September 15th, for the hearing to be on September 15th?
I thought that was already done.
No, I had to wait because it didn't make the publication the last time. So if I'm noticing this now for September 15th for this ordinance, if we're amending and changing this ordinance, I'm confused as to whether or not I'm noticing this.
Well, it should be noticed after the first reading. I mean, because there was a first reading, it should be noticed for, I mean,
For a public hearing?
yes.
Right.
Well, this is why we had to push it back, because it missed its notification.
It missed the
It missed the
timeframe,
timeframe. So I should be noticing it
Yeah.
then for the
As it is-
15th.
As it is right
As it
now.
is.
As it is right now.
And Dennis will give us advice whether we should change it,
Amend or
or
do it.
amend it, or adopt it, and then do a separate chapter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay, I move that consent agenda items 7A,
Communication consent?
what did I say?
Consent.
Oh, sorry.
Okay?
Communication consent agenda, items 7A through 7E be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Sorry.
Eight,
Eight.
8A through E.
Okay.
I was looking up the prior agenda. Let me start over.
Okay, start over.
Sorry. I move that communications consent agenda items 8A through E be accepted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're at that time in the meeting where we have reports from councilmen, council president.
Thank you, Mayor. The Parking Authority and Historic Preservation Committee will be meeting this month. On September 9th, the mayor and I will be meeting with the police chief and the police captain, the borough administrator, on another one of our pedestrian safety meetings. So following that, we should have an update on additional, plans and activities related to pedestrian safety. Obviously, we're back at school, so I would implore everyone, all drivers and walkers and cyclists to be extra careful. Please be on the lookout for our school children on their way to school. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Wallace?
Thank you, Your Honor. I really have no report. My commissions don't meet till next week and the week after.
Okay. Councilwoman Rasmussen?
I have no formal report. I just want to remind all residents to please recycle. This saves us a lot of money, saves you taxpayers money, and it's good for the environment.
Thank you. Councilwoman Insero?
I have a short report, Your Honor. On Sunday, October 26th, the Metuchen Seniors, Inc. Will be having their 21st annual fundraiser, this time at Metuchen High School. On Sunday, October 26th at 1 p.m. Tickets are $25. So please come out and support them. The Metuchen High School students will be helping out. If anyone wants to volunteer, please let me know. Also, I didn't get a chance to mention it, but I just want to make a comment on the earlier discussion during the discussion about the generator. That has come up frequently at senior meetings, and the seniors would very much like to see a generator at the senior center as well. That senior building, of course, has a kitchen.
Originally, the grant
Yeah.
had money for us to
Right.
do that, but when it came back, after the money was withdrawn, after the grants were withdrawn, the amount of money that we were eligible for was not in as much as we had thought.
Right. I personally think that's a much more suitable building, but
Building for a shelter.
for a shelter, right.
I agree with you.
That concludes my report.
Okay. Sorry, I'm losing track here. Councilman Grazel?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to remind the public that on Sunday, October 5th, between 12 to 5 p.m., the Arts Council will once again be sponsoring the Galleries of Metuchen. This is a gallery walk that features 6 art galleries in Metuchen. Center to the whole function will be the Rotunda Gallery here at Borough Hall. Each of the galleries will have special art presentations. There'll be music and food at all the locations. Attendance is free. The other galleries include the new gallery at the Metuchen Library, which does not yet have a name, Transformations at the Old Franklin Schoolhouse, Nails in the Wall at St. Luke's, VAM Art on Station Place, and the Drawing Room at Main and Wernick. So I hope everyone will come out on Sunday, October 5th, between 12 to 5. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Camerino?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be real brief. There was a great summer at the pool this year. The weather cooperated. Some would say it was a little chilly, but overall they had a great year. Things went well. And the good news is, it's not over yet. The pool, thanks to the Pool Commission, and more importantly, thanks to the managers at the pool, have extended summer for one more weekend. The pool will be open Saturday, on September 6th, from 10 to 7, and Sunday, the 7th, from 10 to 5. This is something that we started, I think, last year, or maybe the year before, I don't remember.
It was last year.
It's not easy to do, and I really commend the managers and the commission for making the commitment to do it when the weather's still nice. It requires summertime training for staff, including lifeguards, as they lose lifeguards to college and high school sports and other activities. They have been able to manage it, so they're constantly bringing in certified lifeguards that permit them to do this. So it's a great day. Hopefully the weather will cooperate during the weekend, and once again, I have to commend the managers who really make it happen. And no further report.
Thank you. Dennis, do you have a report?
No, Mayor, I have no report.
Bill?
I have no report.
I just have a few items. One, the planning board had been scheduled for September 18th and 22nd to hear the Whole Foods application. The applicant is not going to be prepared, and so we have to move that to the October 2nd and October 16th. One of the issues, however, now is that it may not be on METV because of our staff having vacation time. So it may not be available to us to show it. Reminder that September 21st is the dedication of the fire truck at 1 to 4 p.m. All people are invited. We hope that you come out. And lastly, on September 13th, Principal Bruce Paragallo and I will be doing the ALS Challenge before the high school opening football game. So we would hope that people would contribute to that cause, and we will be contributing and also getting ice bucketed with ice water. So, okay? And that concludes my report.
Mayor, I have a question. At the next meeting, can we get a report from the borough engineer about any updates on the situation with the Amtrak bridge and bridge strikes?
Sure. We'll ask. He has written to the county. I know that, and the county has not come through with any answer that I know of at this point. Okay?
Okay, I move new business consent agenda items 13A through I be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I move bill resolution in the amount of $304,169.46 be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. There are no appointments or ordinance introductions. I'm going to open it to the public. Hearing no one, I close that section of the meeting, and seeing no one.
There were people here before. I move for adjournment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.